Okay, hey, my name is Jonathan Clark, DJ Bolivia. I'm here with Francis Cormier, Urban Francis, and this video is part of a bigger series about a techno track that we produced in Ableton Live. The track is called Hijack. If you are looking at this as the first video in this series, I'd recommend that you go back and watch the overview video first. This particular video is going to deal only with the chords track. Okay, so let's get right into it. So on the chords track, you can see that we've only got a single track, and basically what's going on is we're using MIDI notes to make this work. And so the MIDI is being routed through Absynth 5. And so this is the only other plugin other than the sausage fattener. This VSTI, a lot of you may not have it. And so this is the only one that's a little bit difficult. We couldn't pull it out. Probably we could have taken the sound from the particular instrument within Absynth. We probably could have printed that to an audio file and put it in the project that way. That may have been a smart thing to do. And actually we may do that in the next few minutes and save it in this version, this Hijack tutorial version that we put on Dropbox, so that way those of you that don't have Absynth will have it. But in the meantime, if you didn't have access to that, you could always replace Absynth with a different instrument of your own from any other VSTI, soft synth, whatever, and you could still make something work. And it would sound a little bit different than ours, but that's good. Variety is good. So basically the sound is running through Absynth. We have an EQ8 here, and we've got a lot of subtractive equalization happening. Coming over here, it goes through the dark hall preset filtering. Then it goes into a delay, the dotted eighth, and that's going to be really important. We'll look at that in a minute. But first, let's look at the MIDI. So basically, what's happening is we have, if you zoom into this, you can see that we're looking at chunks of 8 bars in length. Okay, and so looking at the MIDI right here, it's pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's repeating one time. Those 4 bars repeat to give it the 8 bar section that we're using kind of as a phrasing in the track. Now, if you look up at the track as a whole, I guess we really do have this broken up so that the sections in part A and part B are similar. So you look at all these different chunks, and as I click through them, if you watch this set of notes, as I click through them, nothing is changing because they're all the same until you get to, let's look at part C. Boom, boom, boom. There. Okay, so we've got a different color on this clip just to accentuate the fact that there's a difference. So that clip and that clip are slightly different. You can see on the track itself that there's an absence of notes compared to right here. It's way more obvious if you look down here at the clip data. So keep looking at this, and I'm going to flip back and forth between these two clips, and it looks a lot more obvious down here. You can see that the ones that are dropping out are these, and these. So basically, I'm cutting out the high notes as the song progresses. As we're about to get to the intro, I start cutting out those top notes, which give it a little bit more energy, and the higher frequencies always cut through the mix a little bit better. So basically, the versions of the clip without the high notes are good for the low energy parts of the song. And so that means break 1 has the low energy version. Break 2, we've got them cut out altogether in this version, although I think they're still playing in the version that we originally uploaded for the remix contest. And the outro, and just coming into the outro, they're also disabled. Not disabled, just the trebles cut off the top. So where did this pattern come from, I guess maybe is another good question. And so what happened was, when we built this, we decided, I basically sat down at a piano and I came up with a 4-chord combination that I wanted to use, And after I came up with that combination, the basically the root chord I was using was a D minor. So it had a D, an F, and an A. But I wanted to change this around a little bit, and I wanted to keep a single note in the bass throughout the entire track. So, you know, some types of music like house, you know, very upbeat house, it'll have a very moving bass line. But with the techno, I wanted it to be, you know, stuck on one thing and just driving home, because, you know, it works in techno. So basically, in order to do that, I took my different chords that I was working with, and I tried playing with some different inversions. And I realized that when you go to the third inversion of a D minor chord, you start with the A on the bottom, and then D and F is up on the top. And so I thought, okay, that's a good one to start with. So basically, I built this series of 4 chords and rearranged them so that we have an A down at the bottom the whole time for some consistency. And then, of course, we also made sure that our bass lines kind of mirrored that approach. So basically, with the let's solo this and see what it sounds like. So the first time that we built this, we actually had these notes up, these 4 notes up a little bit higher, and I think they were on an F sharp, and so it had more of a descending pattern, and those F sharps were a little bit dissonant. Maybe it was even on a G, come to think of it. Anyway, it was more of a pattern where the note kept dropping, sort of like a voice leading pattern, but in a downward motion, downward frequencies. And so that was good, but the top note in it originally, it didn't really cut through the mix. It sounded dissonant. You know, sometimes dissonance sounds great. It didn't sound good to me. And so what I ended up doing, instead of a 4-step pattern going downward, I dropped that first one, so our first 2 sections are the same before it keeps going down. But the center note, the middle note in the triad, that one does drop from the first to the second, and so that still gives it that downward motion that we're looking for. So, yeah. And then moving to the other pattern. So that sounds a little bit darker, a little bit lower energy. Let's look at the effect of the let's look at the effect of the delay. We'll cut the dry wet down. Okay, so that's what our MIDI is doing. It's just a very simple pattern, but by putting this dotted eighth delay, it's a really cool pattern. So it sounds like there's far more going on than there actually is happening with the MIDI. And then when you play with the feedback, well, actually, let's look at the automation for a second. Okay, so we have different types of automation going on here. We have the frequency A on the instrument rack is going back and forth from one extreme to the other throughout the entire track. The panning, we've got it center panned for most of the time, but you'll notice in the first breakdown and happening now at the end of the song in the outro, it's really going back and forth from speaker to speaker. Let's just bring it back to the breakdown. And then finally, Absinthe. Well, there's our dotted eighth feedback. And so the feedback is changing through here. And that does make quite a difference in sound. Let's play that once more. We'll zoom in on it a little bit. So we're looking at this. So very, very high feedback at the start, dissipating. And then when you have it in the mix as a whole, you can hear it, but it's not overpowering the mix. And then at the end of the processing, we just have a standard sidechain compression happening. So pretty straightforward. And if you're playing with this on your own, I really, really encourage you to try and substitute some other synths other than running it through the Absinthe. And I think that's going to give you a lot of variety right off the bat to start making your tracks stand out and sound a little bit different than the versions that we've put online. Anything you want to add?
No, that was really good.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Let's move on to the next video.